Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks to our witnesses, Mr. Bolton and Mr. Schuman, for joining us today. I look forward to continuing our past hearings discussions on the dire need for the increased transparency and accountability by Speaker Pelosi, the Capitol Police Board and leadership, and Capitol security overall. Mr. Bolton, this week, you received a letter from Republican members of this committee addressing numerous concerns that members have that we have raised regarding practices and clear breaches of trust by Capitol Police leadership. The magnetometers outside of the chamber that serve no security purpose and address no known internal threat. The incident in November when officers entered a member's office, took photos of legislative planning materials, and subsequently opened an investigation into that office's legislative work, and others. Even beyond the increased scrutiny of members, Politico reported last month that the Capitol Police's Intelligence Division is now conducting extensive background checks on Americans visiting their representatives. Capitol Police's leadership and their response to these instances of gross misconduct and clear threats on American civil liberties, as well as the department's leadership failure to implement the majority of the Inspector General's recommendations, have done little to rebuild trust within the congressional community. It's imperative that the Inspector General's office continue to investigate the intelligence failures in the buildup to January 6th. Excuse me. Over the past year, it's become clear that Democratic leadership has abdicated its security oversight responsibilities, choosing not to learn lessons from the 1998 attack, the tragic 2011 shooting in Arizona, or the attack on my friends and I at a baseball field down the road from here in 2017. Mr. Bolton's office has made numerous recommendations to Capitol Police leadership to improve the security posture at the Capitol. It is imperative that the full number of security recommendations be implemented quickly and with the cooperation of both Capitol Police leadership and the Capitol Police Board. Just today, the Government Accountability Office released a report on lack of security preparedness by Capitol Police leadership and the Capitol Police Board on January 6th, for which I ask unanimous consent to enter into the record, Madam Chair.
Without objection.
The GAO found that the U.S. Capitol Police's planning for January 6, 2021 did not reflect the potential for extreme violence aimed at the Capitol and did not include contingencies for support from other agencies. Of course, the Republican members of this committee have been driving home this point for over a year now. Why was the Capitol security apparatus so unprepared? Part of the answer to that question is also addressed by the GAO, which explains that the Capitol Police Board oversees the Capitol Police. As we know, the Capitol Police Board is made up of political appointees, answerable to congressional leadership, including Speaker Pelosi, no matter how many times she tries to duck her responsibility in the press. GAO's report tells us that while the Capitol Police makes security recommendations, it does not have the authority to implement them without board approval. And the board has no process in place to do review and approve such recommendations. GAO concludes, without a comprehensive documented process to assess and mitigate risks, there is no assurance that the Capitol Police and the board are not overlooking potential security risks. In other words, even after decades of attacks, the Capitol is no better prepared today than it was on January 6th. And that failure rests squarely on the shoulders of Speaker Pelosi, Capitol Police leadership, and the Capitol Police Board. I am thankful that the chair has called this important hearing because Americans and members alike deserve answers. And I hope today provides an opportunity for Mr. Bolton to give assurances that his office will investigate these matters vigorously. Our men and women who are in the Capitol Police, they place their lives on the line every day as the protectors of Congress. Their mission is vital for Congress to continue functioning on behalf of the American people. But that mission is undermined when the leadership of the Capitol security apparatus chooses to enact policies that are potentially politically motivated or infringe on the civil liberties of those who work in and visit our nation's capital. Let me remind everyone on this call and on this hearing today that neither Mr. Loudermilk or I would likely be here alive without the brave Capitol Police officers who ran toward gunfire so that we could run away from gunfire. We owe those heroes our lives. It's the leadership that needs to be held accountable for the decisions that they have to follow and live with in their daily operations and their daily workday. I hope Mr. Bolton understands the gravity of the situation at hand. And I know he works directly for the Capitol Police Board. But Mr. Bolton, we hope you will commit to keeping all members of this committee informed of your investigations as they unfold. Madam Chair, I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. I just would, before recognizing our Inspector General, would note for the record that on January 6th, 2020, the Capitol Police Board was made up of the Sergeant at Arms of the House and Senate and the Architect of the Capitol, the architect appointed by President Trump, the Sergeant in the Senate by Mitch McConnell, and the Sergeant in the House by John Boehner. And the leadership of the Senate was Mitch McConnell and, of course, Speaker Pelosi in the House. I would now have the immense pleasure of introducing our witness